Hello and welcome to Sugar Silk and Stretch, a unique boxing podcast brought to you exclusively by Ace Podcast Nation. My name is Ben Doughty, and I think one of my confederates is trying to get in right now. He's a little late. Let's put him in the show. What's up,
Hey,
Silk?
what's
Have you
going
saw the
on?
layout, out, man?
Have I seen
We're
the
good.
layout?
Say again?
You said, have I seen the layout?
I said, let me sort the layout out.
Oh, okay.
And I did. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I got the back line here. Gary
It
is
was a
coming. Fear
complex,
not.
complex thing, right?
Say what?
I said the complexities of you having to do all this work.
For sure, very grossly underappreciated. I mean, let's be honest. I work with colleagues who can't even Google search the ring walk times for major fights, and they think it's like a God-given right for me to tell them what time Ben Rodriguez and Juan Francisco Estrada will enter in the ring. And if I don't tell them exactly rhyme and verse, they send pictures like half an S in the WhatsApp group. I mean, can you believe that?
I can't believe the audacity. But here's the thing, though: if you were to send them just playing devil's advocate, if you were
Oh, not you.
no, I know it's unusual for me, but if you were to give them some information, why not give them the whole information instead of just looking at it from their
The whole
perspective?
truth and nothing but the truth.
Yeah. So help you God. Why not just say, okay, this is when the show is coming on. You already told them what channel it's going to be on. This is what time it comes on. It doesn't. It's almost like you're giving them incomplete information on purpose because you want them to labor through looking through.
I want you to discover yourself and become independent.
Oh,
exactly.
You're talking to
I
me
want you
personally.
to learn these life skills.
You're talking to me personally. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking collectively to certain individuals.
Oh, well,
But me.
maybe Gary Stretch too. Although, listen, regardless of that, I'm guessing you caught the fight. I certainly hope you did. I got to tell you, Silk, I'm really high on Jesse Ben Rodriguez right now. I think he's a fantastic fighter. I think he ticks so many boxes. He's wonderful to watch. His fundamentals, his angles, his creativity, his defense, changing levels, head movement. I just think he's the whole package, and I really, really like him. How about you?
Unfortunately, I did not get the chance to look at him. Fortunately, I picked him, but I didn't get a chance to. I didn't get a chance to look at him. Unfortunately, at that performance last night. But from what you're telling me right now, I'm pretty excited. I'm looking forward to seeing it because I love that kind of stuff. I like guys that take it more as just the primitive approach to hit a guy with your club on the head and it's all over. Power is a beautiful demonstration, but when you see somebody who's got power and they're able to bring it no matter what's coming at them, they're able to see through the storm and find openings. Figure out this a fistic Rubik's cube. I really like that about boxing.
And you know what? There was something in the first round. I was even going to nick a clip up from it to show you, even though it's something very basic, but it was beautiful. I didn't in the end because I don't know if DAZN might start slapping us with, hey, that's our content, because their logo is all over it. But in the first round, he comes out, Rodriguez, and he's a southpaw, okay? He lays back from a punch.
Can I just say for a second, have you noticed the influx of southpaws? There are more southpaws boxing than ever.
Oh, listen, man, they're very common. And the thing is, it was something that they're almost losing the advantage that they used to have because they were rare and people hated them. I think people are used to boxing southpaws now. And I think we're used to seeing more switch hitters now who go both ways, as it were.
Yeah. I think there are more switch hitters. But I also think there are more people that they're making them southpaws out the gate instead of converting them.
Absolutely, yeah, because there's no more prejudice anymore. It's a bit like this tolerant society, LGBTQ, southpaws are in there as well. Portsiders.
I never thought they'd have southpaws at all.
Southpaw lives matter, Silk. They matter. Listen, so he's a southpaw, and he lays back from a shot from Estrada. It may have been a jab, but he does this little tiny layback, and then he comes back. And honestly, I'm not going to tell you anything incredible, but he just comes back 1, 2, 3. And every single shot lands. Everything is perfect. It was like the perfect textbook 1, 2 hook, and it was just the layback and then 1, 2, 3. You don't normally see a guy land all 3 of those punches. And he did. And I just thought that was just so lovely what he did then in textbook. And and he uses the angles. If you look at the body shot finish, he kind of walks Estrada into the shot and then shifts his angle slightly as he finishes. with what would have been it's his rear hook as a southpaw, which lands, left hook to the liver, same as the orthodox punch. I just think he's such a. I mean, listen, I was high on Sonny Edwards, and I ended up picking Sonny Edwards because I've known him for so long, and I took Sonny Edwards to get his license from the British Boxing Board of Control. Actually, sometimes my heart rules my head on predictions. I think you did pick Rodriguez when they fought, and but it takes a pretty special fighter to do the job he did on Sonny Edwards and leave him like he'd been through an angle grinder. And I think he is one of the very best fighters in the world right now. We talk about elite fighters and who is elite, who isn't. I think he is. He wants to fight Inoue, he said. He's thrown that name out there, but he's actually saying, don't get too excited yet. He says, right now it's a fantasy fight. I need to work my way up. But interestingly for you, he said he's at, 1-1-2-2. I'm at 1-1-5. And that's a chasm in people's imagination today. That's 2 divisions. I mean, it's only £7, right? And we know how you feel about some of these, kind of the sanctity of weight and the way people seem to fear it, like some kind of god or something. But he says, I'm not talking about Inoue just yet, but that would be the dream scenario for me to fight Inoue at some point.
I had a comment, but it was 2 miles behind us. I had a really good comment to continue our conversation on what we were discussing. But now we're off the thing, so I'm sorry. I should have just interrupted because I can't remember anything for too long. It's gonna stay. If I don't say it within the second, it's gone. And now it's gone.
Okay, that's a shame. Anyway. Let me take the chance to reply to Sean while you're trying to remember what funny things you intended to say.
I'm not gonna try to remember, but go ahead. Let's go.
We have a little bit of a luxury right now. Gary's not here, but he will be here. And when Gary's here, I can't even get in with these comments because there's too many. There's 3 of us all trying to talk. But he says, that is amazing. You took Sonny's for his license. Can you share anything re Sonny? I really like him. Yes, Sean. He was at the TKO gym with his brother Charlie a lot when they were still amateurs. They boxed for the Repton in that period. But you know the ones, Silk, who are like full time already. They go to an amateur club and they're connected to that really good club because that gets them in the championships, and it gets them on trips and in kind of international select tournaments and stuff. But really, they're training with the pros every other day that God sends as well when they're not in the amateur gym. Yeah. That was Charlie and Sonny Edwards. It was also Anthony Yard.
Are amateurs allowed to train with pros in England?
Yeah. I mean, they weren't for years, but that got relaxed a long time ago. So circa 2012, when I was at this great big old school East London boxing gym in a place called Canning Town, it had 3 boxing rings in it. It was on an industrial estate, kind of part of town when you'd only go if you were going to that gym. You wouldn't go for any other reason. And Sonny and Charlie were always training there every night, and they were weighing themselves religiously, whether they had a coach with them or not. And Sonny stood out a mile with his flashy kind of, loose limbed sort of style, switch hitting, reflex based, all the rest of it. And he won everything as an amateur. He never got a chance, I don't believe, to go to. I think it was the Olympics he missed out on. I think it was the Commonwealth Games he missed out on. But he won everything he was available to him as an amateur. Then when he initially turned pro with MTK, the controversial lot who were mixed with organised crime and that Tyson Fury. Sure. You really need to get a veil to that story, Silk. It's quite interesting. But regardless, he started with MTK and he was out in Spain. And then because his coach was Spanish-based, but he needed a British license holder to take him to the border control to go get his license, he asked me would I go with him, Sean. And all I did was take him to the thing, but obviously the premise was that I'd be training him when he was in England, which was just, I don't know if any of the boards watching, but that was just the ruse he wanted to use to get his license for. But it was interesting,
Two things. Sit back just a little bit, please.
Okay, 1 second.
Oh, there's Gary. Sit back just a little bit. Just a little bit. Come up a little more into the camera. Come up, Ben. Come up.
Come up.
Ben, come up into the camera like this. Like put your chest out. Pug house. I like that. Pug house.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, cool. So what's Gary's t-shirt say? We're going to get some kind of thing going
on.
Blank.
Gary says power. Mug house.
Yeah, Black Power. Yeah.
Black Power.
What's that, Gary? Good morning.
Good evening. Good morning to wherever in the world it's morning.
But we were just talking. Help me out here, Gary. The Silk didn't see it, but did you see Bam Rodriguez last night?
No.
Versus, you didn't either. What's the?
No, I fell asleep. It was very late.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So I'm the only one who saw it. That's great. Well, listen.
Ben, what time is it on in England?
What time was it on in England?
Yo, Gary, thank you so much. I asked him a simple question. He got a cob on.
What time is it on in England? And just tell me.
He got a cob on just because I asked him the time, and he wouldn't tell me specifically.
What time was
it? He's one lazy motherfucker as well. I wouldn't tell him.
No, but what time was it? Give me the time in England.
About 5 a.m. So it was about 7 a.m. where you were.
Yeah. So I
didn't watch it live.
No, but my problem was I watched Lopez live.
Yeah.
And I was trying to stay up to watch that live, and at some point I fell asleep.
Okay, not to worry. Listen, I wouldn't normally highlight this comment because it's.
But I gave that away to both of you, as you know. So what I suggest.
Yeah, all right. Not
hey, don't do me any favors. I'm winning right now. I'm winning. Don't do me any favors
because I've given you so many freebies.
Listen, I wouldn't normally highlight a comment about football, but Terry Road says go England football. The only reason I'm highlighting it is because Terry, I believe, is a friend of yours, Gary. She looks kind of cute in a Facebook picture, so I thought I'd give her, that little bit of.
Wait up. Provide a picture for us all.
Terry's one of my best friends. Actually, could be my best friend. She's amazing, Terry.
That's why I flashed the comments up.
So she loves Liverpool. She loves Liverpool.
She should have been a fighter, Terry. She will knock you the fuck out. No, she's the best. She's an elegant young lady, but she fights like a motherfucker. If anyone hits her, Gary, or her kid,
he's just frozen, hasn't he? Silk?
And Gary, I'm her best mate. So if you fuck with us, you fuck with Terry. I wouldn't want to do that. She's a bulldog. Very elegant lady.
I didn't mean to go down like a separate avenue on this. I really didn't. Listen, guys, let's get back. All right, I'm the only one who saw it. So as I was saying to Silk, he looked really good. I'm very, very high on Jesse Ben Rodriguez. I mean,
who's his trainer?
I can't remember. I can't remember right now. Somebody tell me who Jesse Ben Rodriguez trainer is.
This kid he's English.
Is he? Fuck. He's from San Antonio. Come on. That's not good enough. That is not good enough.
He's from San Antonio. You said before that you just prefaced it with saying that you were in the
Sonny
club
Edwards. Sonny Edwards, totally different guy who lost to Rodriguez last December.
Come on, is that such a reach?
Rodriguez from England?
Yeah.
How many people do you know called Rodriguez from England? Gary? Are there many of them down the chip shops in St. Helens?
There's a lot of Rodriguez's born in England. They're from Hispanic families.
Yeah. Listen, we are descending on this one. We need to. Someone's got to get this back
together. It's very interesting, though. But does England have a large?
Let me actually, Ben. Sorry, did cut you off. So
yeah, I was going to say, does England have a large Spanish community?
Yes.
In London, sure. Yeah, sure.
Just in London.
Not as big as LA.
Maybe elsewhere, but But as I say, Jesse Rodriguez is from San Antonio, like the Ayalas were from.
That's what I thought.
And I think he's one of the definitely one. I mean, I'm not obsessed with this pound for pound list by any stretch of the imagination, but I think he's right up there because he does everything you want a fighter to do. I mean, obviously you've seen him before, Gary, so you will.
Yeah, I'm well versed. I hadn't seen the guy that he fought. I read that he was very talented. I saw him in the pre-fight workout, and he looked very handy. And I thought I'd take a gamble, but I was wrong. But I think it's unfair. I think I've been too relaxed on these choices because I was so dominant for so long.
I think the reason why you've been relaxed,
thank you, Sean B, for that. Thank you, Sean B. 106,000 Spanish people.
Thank you. The reason why you're relaxed, Gary, is because you realise it's just a little sideline, and you don't let it define your very existence, like the man in the middle here. That's why you're relaxed about it.
Listen to Ben. Listen, both of you, Ben. You were laying down rules that had never even existed, trying to get back in this game.
That was Gary's idea.
I admire Silk's continuation in life that he cannot lose.
But listen, I've lost in life, obviously. I mean, I've lost in boxing, but I do. You know what I mean? When I do things, I mean, I don't play. I don't.
So I'll tell you what I suggest we do. I suggest we wipe the slate clean now.
Oh, he wants to do it now. I said that a while back, and he was he said, "Your record is your record, Ben." You said.
No, but I'll catch up and beat you all, no problem. But
that's not going to happen. Sorry.
Okay, so let's wipe it clean. Let's make some rules. And that means there's many times when people don't know a fighter or don't. We have to do the research, Silk. And if we're not on the podcast on the prediction day, we have to phone it in.
Yeah, and there's other rules I'd like to propose, Gary. Like we can either pick method of victory to get another point, or we can just play safe and pick the right winner. We could get more points for a draw, and we're also allowed to abstain every so often if we really don't have a conviction. So not all the time, but because obviously we can't just sit on the sidelines. But we should have an abstention, maybe once a month, where we got that one credit where we say, "I'm not going to go on this one, guys." Let's make it more interesting.
Okay, we do this, and it's 1st to 10. First to 10 wins. And
wins the round. Wins the round.
No. We have to have at some point. We have to have a winner. Obviously, because if we'd have been doing this before, I'd have won this multiple times, but we didn't. But if we do let's say the 1st to 10 points, and then we have to have something at stake for all of us.
Okay, before we yes, let's do that because that'll make it more interesting for the viewers.
Well, talking about the viewers, go back on this. Yes.
Listen, and 1 second before we get on with the show, because I think we should, because we're rambling a bit about nothing in a way. I just want to make one point. Do you remember when Gary said? Because me and Gary are very close now, percentage-wise and numbers-wise. I'm 19-14, he's 19-12. There is literally like a Rizzler nearly between us at this point. I just want to remind you when he said, you're like on the level of Dev Sani now in terms of knowledge. I just think it's funny how we're a little bit closer together. That's what annoyed me enough to call him out in the other crazy scenario, which I'm glad we didn't even mention.
Ben, what is your record? Your record is now, what, 19 and what?
I'm 14, and yours is 19 and 12. Which means you've only done 2 less than me. Get 2 more wrong, and me sit out for 2 weeks, and we're even. Right?
So I would be 21 and 14, and you'd be 19 and 12. No, I would be 21 and 12, and you'd be 19 and 14.
I mean, you guys tried everything. What you tried doing to me, like you guys tried hijacking me in that other fight with all of a sudden you were giving yourselves 4 extra points for a win. I was like, oh my God.
Come on, let's not air this. Let's stay on track, because obviously I've titled this show about Bam talking about Inoue. What he's saying, Gary, like I say, I think the kid is really, really good, and I think there's so many.
Well, wait a minute. Do we have this thing? We keep on going on subjects and not finishing them. So what we're saying is we're going to go to a new. You want to go to a new system?
New card. I'll tell you why. I want to go 10-0. I don't have a doubt.
What we're doing here, we're talking amongst ourselves when we're not doing a show. They could care less, I suspect.
No, they all want us to win.
Let's talk about that, and then when we got the rules sorted, let's reveal it to the viewers. This is the all new, because we're going to make some changes.
But you guys have to also publicly exclaim me to be the winner of this our inauguration.
Trust me, Silk. That tiny accolade propping up your broken self-esteem because of your unsuccessful career in pugilism, that will be afforded to you. Don't worry, we've got your back, kid. We've got you.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Gary?
I'm not sure we're going to give him this victory. I may just keep playing.
He doesn't want to give it. Look, I can't believe how competitive he is. But why can't I? Because what I didn't realize about Silk, and then we are moving on to the fucking subject after this, by the way. What I didn't realize about Silk, I just figured he was this pretty boy, good boxer, that style and profile, flash, and more like that kind of, almost like Pernell Whitaker might have been the top kind of, aspiration with the mindset. He's actually an assassin. He's a cold, steely-hearted assassin who wouldn't give you an inch or a quarter. You want him with you in the trenches, and he would never, ever not want to knock you out if he could. He'd never carry someone in a million years. So I didn't realize quite how he's more assassin-minded than I thought he was. I thought he was probably more one of them kind of, I don't know, guy with a different mindset, maybe more like the one I had.
I'm going to give you some good advice. When you look at Silk and you look at his history as a fighter, when you're just about to bet against him, one must say, why does he look like that? And he looks like that because he doesn't get hit. And then I say, okay, though these pretty boys, tall, lean, slick, doesn't have a mark on his face, is all information that this kid can fight. So
there is an obvious caveat to that. There is an obvious caveat to that, right?
Gary's stretch was the epitome of pretty boys, so you got to take his word for it, Ben.
I remember saying to my dad, I was looking at a guy who was fighting when I turned 16, and he was like 30, and he looked like a monster. And I said, fucking hell, Dad, he looks like he's killed me. And he said, I'm not worried about guys who look like him. I'm worried about guys who look like you. I said, why, Dad? Why? He said, because you've never been hit. So I said, okay. And I went in and I did the job, and I never worried about it again. The uglier and tougher they looked, I thought, that's fine.
People like it doesn't always work that way, of course, because like Tommy Hearns' nose is all over his face, for instance. But but yeah, obviously there's a degree of wisdom in that, of course.
So to jump on something, Ben, for a second, if you go back, a few people wrote in, and one of them was, I believe, news on Stephen Tangstad.
Yeah, Stephen Tangstad died last Wednesday. The former world title challenger, the one who fought Michael Spinks in '86 for the IBF title. Yeah. He was twice European heavyweight champion. He beat some good men like Joe Bugner and Alfredo Evangelista. He drew with James Buster Douglas back in 1982 in an 8-rounder. So we extend our condolences, I'm sure, to his family and intimates. It's funny when you hear names like that, isn't it? Because we grew up with names like that in the heavyweight division, and then you don't hear them for years, and next thing you hear, they passed away age 65, and it's all it makes you feel it makes an impression, doesn't it?
It does. Blessings, and I apologize for I'm sorry for the loss. Stephen Tangstad was one of those names, like when you're in the States or in Canada and you're growing up. I'm sure it was in England. You're looking through the world rating, and the world ratings was so diverse. Like you had guys from Panama, you had guys from Japan, and just all over, especially for some reason it seemed more so in the 80s than even today. But Stephen Tangstad was a name that stood out. You know what I mean? Like when you had the Eastern Europeans, and you didn't have that as much, but certainly, people from like Denmark and Sweden, and you'd find those names and you'd be like, you identify with those, like you just like, oh, I know where that is.
Because they were always there in the ring ratings. You couldn't stop seeing that name in the ring ratings, right?
Yeah, he was there. Yeah, sorry for the loss.
But like I say, Ben Rodriguez, I think he's a fantastic fighter. I think he's a consummate fighter. I almost don't see a weakness in him right now at this stage. But he's talking about fighting Inoue, Gary, but he says he's not in a rush. He said, I'm at 115. There's still 3 rival champions at 115 at super flyweight, by the way, and there's some supremacy to be considered there.
So meaning he'll move up. You're saying he'll move up to fight?
Well, no, he's not saying that. He said he's got business in. He's saying I'm at 115. Inoue's at 122. I've got business in this super flyweight division yet. But he said my dream scenario is Inoue. That's who he'd like to fight at some point. And then the argument comes in: is he too small? And then you get Silk who says too small, too small. He doesn't think it's a factor, Gary. What do you think? I mean, about that scenario, maybe in a year's time or whatever.
I think that after I win the competition, I will then dictate to Silk about what defines why I won, and one of the elements in which I won was that size does matter.
Yeah.
You know what I was just doing, Ben, before we got on the show? I was writing an article. I was just writing a piece. I just have these crazy thoughts that come to my mind, and I was writing particularly on how coaches and their knowledge and their lack of knowledge has colored boxing.
Yeah.
And just certain approaches by certain individuals, like the way, like we look at certain fighters and we say, wow, those fighters are great, but they could have been even greater had they had the coach who himself may have been great, but they didn't give their fighter what they needed because the air is so thin at top. So again, Rodriguez against somebody like, Inoue, you wonder, like when you think about it, you wonder what are they doing with his attributes that would allow him to defeat somebody like Inoue. You know what I mean? Because he's more than just power. He has the bomb, but he also has the technology to be able to get that bomb and detonate it over on his chin or wherever he has to.
He might have to outbox him.
It's the technology, right? It's not just the fact that you can punch, because a great deal of people can punch. It's the technology to get it from here to here.
Well, here's the thing I think of. Sorry, do you want to continue first?
Well, go ahead. I'll jump back in.
When they talk about trainers, Michael and Gary, what I wonder when you see a fighter's marvelous skills that they have, you see some fighters do things that just not everybody does, and once you run it back and you look at the tape, look at you rewind and you say, how did he just do that? One time, Rodriguez knocked down a fella called Carlos Cuadras, who's a good fighter, right? And this is what he did. I want you to try and imagine it as best you can while I'm sitting down. Southpaw, yeah? He threw 1, 2. That was the southpaw, yeah? Then he did this little shift. So you end up coming around here. You spin your hips a little bit, right? Yeah, you pivot.
Yeah.
So the angle's changed. And when the angle had changed, he was orthodox. And he threw what amounted to a rear right-hand uppercut from the orthodox stance. And it was just really smooth and flawless and seamless. And you're like, well, did his trainers teach him that? Did his pro trainers teach him that? Or does he just know how to do that? Like someone like Orlando Canizales and the amazing angles that he used to bring about, the shifts and stuff. Do trainers teach them everything? Or do these guys just do some of these wonderful things naturally? Not naturally, but they find the moves themselves as they go on a journey. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I believe that, like in boxing is the absolute ultimate sport of ad-libbing. Like you ad-lib, you like all of a sudden you'll throw things. I remember being on the set of Ali when we were doing the Ali movie with Will Smith, and we were in Mozambique, and we were filming the big fight. And there was a time when Ali, when he dropped Foreman.
Yeah.
And they kept saying, I said Ali pivoted here, and they kept saying he switched feet and became a southpaw when he threw that. And I was like, no, he didn't. It just, that wasn't, and I couldn't get it across to them that Ali actually, like, you ad lib. That's not something you do.
You said that to me when I mentioned Patterson when he knocked out Johansson in the second fight, I think it was, and he ended up switching southpaw and throwing some hooks from that stance. You said that was just literally one of them things, stream of consciousness. It wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
Yeah,
like
and you just switch. You've switched your feet, but that punch is there. It's obvious, and you have to let it go. So in the moment, you let it go. And people take that move, and then they say, they take it and say, oh, that was amazing what he did. It was amazing the way he ad-libbed, the way he naturally did what he had to do, took advantage of the position he was in and was able to throw it. But it's not like that it was a particular thing that they had studied. Although fighters do absolutely do that now, but not in that instance. And
I'll give you another example. It's just like film actors, you can all study and learn the basics. And then the great actors do their own thing, and I think that they just they're very creative fighters. And at the end of the day, creative, smart, quick thinking, and they find, and also egos, which they have sense of humor. Like fighters are, they're so multi-fractional. They want to humiliate you, make fun of it. They want to do everything that you shouldn't be able to do and do it. That's why Roy Jones, the great Roy Jones, and Muhammad Ali set a new way of fighting in many ways as a heavyweight. You see through the ages, these guys all try and bring their own thing to it. And
they fight like their personalities, right, Gary? They fight. That personality, multi-layered as it is reflected in that ring in the different nuances.
I think you could read a guy's personality by the way he fights.
I've heard that one before.
Yeah.
If you look, you could pick 5 fighters, and you would, any 5, and I would say that the personality would suggest the way they fight.
I always go back to the example of because Mike Tyson said that actually before you did, Silk, in an interview in 1986 with KO. But anyway, he said, to compound that theory, he said, these days everybody says Camacho fights like Pep. He says, I don't think so. They're 2 completely different individuals. He said Camacho doesn't fight like Willie Pep. He said that's just a lazy comparison. They're nothing like each other, and fighters fight like their personalities. You got the brash cocksure Harlem street punk, and you had the Connecticut kid who was just more chilled out, a different kind of individual.
Yeah, and you can see, by the way, Hector threw with the kind of with spite when he threw punches. You know what I mean?
It was fight. Yeah. Street fight.
Yeah.
Double uppercut. One, 2, 3 uppercuts with the same
hand. Yeah.
Like you're hitting somebody with a bat.
Like when he was up on you, when he was winning, when he was up on you, when you were hurt, he would very much like bully you, whatever it is to rip you apart, he's going to do. And that's exactly the way you want your fighter to be, to have that kind of killer instinct. But he did it with a different type of venom. You know what I mean? Like he'd punch you not necessarily out of fear, but out of Well, or maybe out of fear.
I'll get you first. Street fight kind of. I'll get you first. I'll get in hard, and then I'll ask questions later. Yeah.
Yeah, very much so. But Hector was
Mike Tyson's birthday today, so Joe reminds us it's Mike Tyson's birthday today. A fact not lost on me every year.
Happy birthday, Mike.
What is 59?
He would be 58. 1966. Yeah. Same as you, Gary. Very similar. So, same as both of you, really. You're all very similar.
I'm actually older than him.
Yeah.
What are you, Silk? What year?
I'm 63. I'll be 61 this year. And I'm looking for.
Do you want to know if we're still going to keep you on the show when you're 64? I'm sure there's a musical opportunity there somewhere.
When I'm 64. I'd rather be 69, though.
Yeah. Well, of course you would, yeah. Even now. I take it the missus is out.
I do 68. I do 68. I say, you do me and how you want.
Yeah.
This is a family show here, right? Come on.
It is a family show. Listen, guys, let's talk a little bit about Teofimo Lopez, and then maybe we could talk about Mike Tyson a bit, but since it's his birthday, that would seem fitting, would it not? So we're quite early in the show still-ish. Lopez did a job last night, a lopsided decision over Steve Claggett in Miami, Florida. He looked good enough to me. I think something about Lopez, I
wasn't excited with his performance. I was not excited by it. He didn't highlight his abilities as the person who he says he is, who he claims to be. I did not get that.
Gary? I don't want to take anything away from what is his name, Skaggett?
It's Claggett.
Sklaggett.
Claggett. See out Clag and it.
Claggett. What a fucking name. It's more like I'll tell you what I didn't. I said I didn't like it. I thought Lopez. He was a difficult opponent, that's for sure.
Aggressive.
A lot of pressure, but when you're talking like the best in the world, one would only say like a great world-class top liner would execute Claggett, I think. And the difference being, sure, the first couple of rounds, they like a Mayweather or whoever, they may look uncomfortable. They get the read on the guy. They let the guy do whatever the fuck he wants. So they allow themselves to look bad for a round or two just to get the information, and then they execute. And I was shocked that he couldn't do that. And I'm a fan. I think he's a very talented guy, but I think he, at the best of the best, he has to be able to get rid of guys like that.
I agree with you 100%, Gary. I look at it like this. I mean, this guy came out throwing punches, and all he did was throw. And every time you throw a punch, there's an opportunity to be hit. If I'm like this, he's coming at me and he's throwing a lot of punches. That means he's open. A guy that doesn't throw any punches at you is the hardest kind of guy to fight, right? He's just interested in blocking and going the distance, all the rest of that kind of stuff. Once the guy starts throwing punches, he's leaving himself open. Which when you're supposed to be an elite level fighter, you take advantage of those openings. If I go like this with my jab, I can't throw my right or my uppercut or any other thing. I have to throw my jab. So my whole body is open. If you make me miss, my whole body is open. You can hit me in the body, hit me in the face, under the chin, behind the head, whatever it is. And he wasn't able to do that. And so that talks to you about it tells you a lot about his true ability.
So you guys both feel he made hard work of it. 12 rounds of hard work of a relatively ordinary.
I think like Silk says, you go. I mean, let's not take anything away from the kid. He fought valiantly the opponent and showed incredible heart and courage. And
Canada, yes.
All hats off to him. But when you're talking the greats, the Leonards, the Durans, the Hearns, the people that
which we weren't. We're just talking about Teofimo.
But Teofimo Lopez, he puts himself in that category.
Yeah. Don't they all?
His foolish dad often does. Dad wants to be more famous than him, but the reality is, if that level, they execute fighters like that. And so that for me was just it's a flaw. It's not what he says he is. He's still an amazing.
So we should have that level of expectancy of him.
And you know what?
If you want to say you're who you are, which he says every day, then we expect you to do better.
Yeah, you're talking about Crawford. You're talking about Tank coming up, whoever it is.
But listen. Here's the thing: he's not talking about Crawford or
yes, he absolutely was talking about Crawford before the fight.
What? He's not talking about Crawford though. Here's the thing: Bob Arum reckons he'll probably fight a guy called Brian Norman, the WBO interim champion, who's about to be upgraded because Crawford's in recess and he's fighting at light middleweight next time out. So that's the trouble.
But I heard Teofimo Lopez. I heard Teofimo Lopez. The words came out of his mouth, Crawford.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Sure, maybe no doubt it came out of his mouth. No doubt. And what I'm saying is he'll end up fighting Brian Norman, and they'll call him a three-weight world champion. That's what will happen.
And the problem is, I'm sure Lopez doesn't like criticism, but he asks for criticism because he puts himself in the elite categories. That in the elite, all due respect, don't go 12 rounds with them kind of opponents. They just don't.
What did you guys think of the ring walk? Did you see the ring walk?
It's a bit embarrassing, to be honest. I mean, I thought the only person who was entertained was himself. So he enjoyed himself. I mean, it's a laugh, but would you want to? I wouldn't want to have that. I wouldn't want to do that ring walk.
Okay, so obviously you would guess I love his choice of song, although it's a little bit tired. You know what I mean? It's like 1980s.
It was Beat It, right? Beat It.
But it's a good. Sorry.
Did he come in to Beat It, Michael Jackson, or was it?
Yeah, I believe it was Beat It.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so he came in to Beat It. I don't see how, like, okay, so if you're going that way and you're going all in with the dance, so then why don't you like do the black suit with the white shirt and the shoes? It's all gonna match up. It's like who is his designer? You know what I mean? It's like, come on, guys, get on the ball.
I think that was Smooth Criminal video, the black. Oh, I don't know. Sorry, that was Billie Jean, right?
Yeah, that was Billie Jean.
Yeah, only on this podcast.
He came in the ring to Beat It, and he came in the ring in like, what was it, a gray suit with like a cummerbund or something?
Yeah, it was light and white. It was kind of creamish or whatever.
Yeah, it really did nothing for me. It may have looked good, I don't know, but it didn't really, like your show has to like be cohesive. It has to make sense. The show didn't make sense.
Can you imagine this production meeting backstage where the Silk comes in and says, "Here's where you went wrong last time, right? I like the tune, I like the swagger, but the wardrobe was way off, and I'll tell you why." And then, see, you're wasted, Silk, out there. You're consulting.
I can certainly help a lot of people with their ring walks and ring entrances. Can
you imagine? We should start an agency for that particular purpose.
But this is something that announces you, right? This is something that's bringing you into the ring. Hector Camacho was like real extravagant with it, and I guess to a certain extent, Tyson Fury was as well.
He has been. When he came in on a stool, he came in on a chair to the ring with a Patsy Cline song, "Crazy," which I thought was really inspired, by the way, Gary, because Tyson Fury he's had the mental health issues. He's been accused of being crazy, and he came into that Patsy Cline classic as he's coming through the Las Vegas arena on a fucking chair.
He's picked some very like avant-garde songs to come in the ring,
which I like.
They fight,
and I think that all these fighters like Fury and Camacho, like they all have some connection to the entrance. The last night to me was random. It was like, what are you saying here?
What are you trying to say? I guess he's trying to tell his opponent to beat it, but
but yeah, and I think it depends whether you can pull it off or not. I mean, obviously Teo is obviously a bit of a dancing boy. He likes that. I've seen him do that on Instagram. And he's in the ring and he starts dancing.
He's a good dancer, yeah.
He's a pretty good dancer. He's got some moves, so that's the way he sees himself. But what else do we need to recap, boys, before we could switch on to a bit of Iron Mike, given it's his 58th birthday? I think that was Sonny Edwards was on the undercard, by the way. He won a technical decision. The fight got stopped at the start of the 9th, I think it was, due to a fight-ending cut caused by an accidental headbutt. Went to the cards and he won it by a street. So he's very much you know, he's very much on his way back now after that first loss of his career incurred at the hands of Bam Rodriguez, he seems to be great mates with him. You see these pictures of them together and all that now, you know, wishing each other well. So,
well, if you had Lopez, what would you do with him? Would you put Lopez in with Garcia? Like, is that a fight that's interesting?
What with Ryan?
Yeah.
Next April and beyond, I suppose I could do. Yeah. Yes, I think it is an interesting fight. I think it sounds like fun. I mean, have you seen Garcia still nuts, still mad all over the place? Anyone who said he was putting on a ruse before the to discombobulate Haney, that's nonsense. It just worked for him alongside the Peds and whatever else, and not making the weight. That wasn't some calculated ploy by Garcia. The kid is very badly wired in the head, and he needs help.
Yeah, he does need help, and you can usually see it. Like fighters. I don't know, not all of them, I guess, as much as I would like to say, but when fighters lose the sense of their physical self, like right now you see him and his body is nowhere near, more or less like Haney's another one. His body has changed radically since the fight. Yeah, I'm like, wow, these guys. How do you turn yourself off like that? I mean, Gary, I'm sure very much like you're very much like me and many fighters, and like the majority of fighters. Once you finish fighting, you're never, I mean, with the exception of Duran, and probably heavyweights, but you're never far from being back to your division, right?
I'm almost the same weight as I was 25 years ago.
But I actually, you say that's normal. I actually, it's not unheard of, but I think you two are both shining examples of that. I think loads of ex-fighters don't do themselves the same justice. You two are in great nick, and you can see that still pretty close to the fighting weight you made. A lot of fighters do blow up, though, I feel.
For me, it's not a mental health issue, but it's like if all your life you've been in a certain kind of shape, for me, when I'm out of that shape, I don't feel right. I don't feel, but I don't feel good about myself. So, and it's a bit of not a burden, but like you say, can you be comfortable however you are? No, if I don't feel like I used to feel or a little bit close to it, then it just doesn't feel like me anymore. So
Ricky Hatton blows up, doesn't he? And he would always yo-yo during his career as well.
But was that the alcohol as much as anything? Like
it was eating. He loved food as well. It was alcohol and food. It was definitely booze, yeah. But he was, you know what he used to eat on the morning of a fight after he'd already made the weight? He used to eat a massive, like an English classic fry-up. But you will know about it, Michael, because you've got English heritage. You know the whole fry-up of bacon, eggs, sausages, fried bread, beans, mushrooms.
Bangers.
Black pudding, all the bangers, yeah.
Oh, black pudding.
He used to eat a really massive fry-up at this his favourite cafe in Manchester in those years when he was always defending or fighting in Manchester. And I don't know. What do you guys think about that nutritionally? That on a day of a 12-round fight, you're going to eat that in the morning. Do you think it matters? Is it a bad idea? Is it okay, or is it irrelevant?
Personally, I don't think it's. I don't see it, only because it's never happened to me, I guess. I really don't see it as being a bad. I mean, you're about to go in a fight. You're going to digest the food before you get into the ring anyway. If anything, psychologically, I guess you want to be able to go the distance and say you sacrificed all the way through. Why satisfy yourself at all in any way? That's what the whole training is all about.
Well, Sean just mentioned Kerry Hayes.
When you go into training for the fight, it's about sacrifice. It's about telling yourself no.
Well, and this is the thing.
Before the fight, you're letting yourself. You know what I mean?
But listen, this is the thing, because he was like a Spartan in training. Sean just mentioned Kerry Hayes, who was his conditioning guru, who was one of these boffins about bodybuilding and science and weight cutting and conditioning. He had him on a really strict diet, something like 11 small meals a day in camp, and it was just basically like chicken and green veg every couple of hours, tiny amounts, and various liquid meal supplements. And then he said on the day of the fight, it made Ricky happy to be able to treat himself to a fry-up. I hear what you're saying. Surely you should switch off the next day, and after the fight. But he said it was the balance of Ricky's mind and happiness. Some of it was tied up in this big fry-up reward on the day of the fight, and he used to let him have it on that basis.
I believe if he eats that big fry-up and he feels strong because of it, then all good to it. Because you're dieting, like Silk says, and your discipline and all of that gives you a certain edge. But like, there's also, I've had days where you want to, like, I've dieted, then I've had a day off where I've had like a cheat day, and I had my cheat day, and the next day I train harder than ever. Like for me,
Don't you ever go to like when you're denied certain things that make you feel comfortable, that make you feel good, like it builds a certain edge. And that's really the main reason why, they say that you know what I mean, to not just don't even bother trying to copulate. You know what I mean? When you're training,
because sex is scientifically proven.
Yeah, there's that too. I mean, there is the release as well.
But it's a release of testosterone. It's exhausting for men, believe it or not. Like, we don't think it is, but it does take a lot out of the body hormonally. So it's if you want to start having sex before fights, it's fine, but you would definitely not.
Some guys are psychologically imbalanced naturally, so they always have that urge to fight. You know what I mean? It's just that normal state that they're in. So whether they have sex or not, it really doesn't matter, because the way their brain works, the way their synapses fire, it's like they're bringing it that way no matter what. So I understand. The same thing with people that smoke. This just, they smoke and they fight with a different energy. They fight with that ire, and they don't fight out of the skill, the getting of skills through knowledge. They fight more emotion with their emotions, and those things, sex, smoking, food, whatever, they don't affect their ability to perform. But for most of us, it does.
Do you know they said with Liston, they used to wind him up and use sex as kind of a carrot to make him as ferocious as possible. They used to tell him that Lena Horne would go out with him as long as he gets rid of the guy in 2 rounds, supposedly, things like that. Or supposedly they would plant a hot chick at ringside and be like, she's for you, she's going to be with you as long as you take care of business. And then after the 3rd round, sometimes the chick would walk out. It might be legends, they might not be true. But this is what you read. This is what I read in Ali's autobiography, The Greatest, My Own Story. They said that they would bait him with Lena Horne or just some random hot chicks, and looks like you missed your chance, Sonny. And they said that Sonny had this crazy sex drive, and because there was one time Mickey Duff said he had to get him a hooker when he was in London in the 60s.
It's so funny. I would imagine that's the American way. Give him something to look forward to. The English way would be, if you don't win the fight, you're going to end up fucking Gary Glitter.
Yeah, there you go. Well, exactly. But Mickey Duff tells a story about Liston was staying at one of those top London hotels, right? And he got him this hooker, but the money hadn't been sorted out. And he kept saying he didn't have any money. He kept saying you need to get some money off of Duff. And at some point, in the end, the woman knocked on Duff's door or sort of brought him to the room and said, listen, this guy's been... She actually used a more pejorative term, but she said, this guy's been fucking me all night and hasn't given me a penny yet. And then... in the end, Liston gave her a certain amount of money, and she queried the amount. And he said, "What about all them sandwiches you ate? From room service?" And she said, "I don't fuck for sandwiches." And that's in Mickey Duff's autobiography. But you do.
Do you hear about the girl got raped, and they're trying to find the person who did it. They said, "Can you give us information? Anything that we could?" She said, "I think he was a boxing promoter." And she said, "Why do you think he was a boxing promoter?" She said, "Because the check bounced."
Yeah.
She said, "How did you know about rape?" She said, "How did you know he worked for British Rail?" She said, "He made me do all the fucking work." Anyway, go on.
Uh-huh. And we just told a couple of jokes about rape, did we? So, moving back to it, Terry's bringing us back to Mike Tyson. She says, "Happy birthday, Mike Tyson, one of the most kind and gentle men I've ever met, of course, outside the ring." So, let's talk about Mike for a bit to the end of the show, perhaps. You met him a bunch of times, obviously, Silk, coming out and you fighting out in New York as you did. You obviously will have been in a position to have got to know him a bit. Do you want to kick this off for us?
Oh, well, I mean, Mike... It's interesting because Mike, when I met him, it was before he was champ.
WBC champ, yeah.
Yeah, before he was champ, and he's always been like real cordial, like really energetic. Like the first words out of his mouth, before I even seen him, I was heading to my seat and I hear him yell "Silk" like this, and it's like, how fighters do. It's like you recognize each other by your nicknames. The same thing when I saw Pazienza for the first time, and Pazienza, we met each other for the first time. And it's all that, it's like good. It's like really good, pure fighter energy. It's like you saw the guys fight on TV. You've never met them, but you recognize them, and all you recognize them by is their nicknames. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he was really cool. I really liked Mike. We never did anything socially together, but we'd always, like, if we were sitting there watching the fights, we'd always live. We'd sit there beside one another and talk. And then I remember one time it was an awards dinner, and he was getting an award, and this is before he was married the first time. And I remember going to we always talked, we always said hi. He was coming down the elevator. I had no idea. I was walking towards the elevator. The elevator door opens up, and I'm like, "Hey, Mike." And I say, "Hey, what's up, Mike?" Like this, and he's just looking at me, and he's staring a hole through me, and he's with his girl, and I'm almost going over to him, and I'm like, "There's something there's like an alarm going off, and it's saying, this isn't the time to go near this guy." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I deviate, and I go the other way like this, and I'm like, that was really, really strange. And then later on, I start, with Robin Givens, I start hearing the things that were going on in his life, and whether they were drugging him or whatever it was, but he was just so, I mean, I would hate to say comatose, but it's like he looked right through me and never recognized.
Well, he was medicated, I mean, because when during his stormy marriage, as the cracks were starting to appear, he was diagnosed as a manic depressive. Now, he's guys like Bill Caton and Steve Lott, who was a big,
they had him diagnosed. Tyson. They had him diagnosed as that, right? I don't know if it was, but they had him diagnosed as that.
Well, you can call it. He was diagnosed as it. You can say they had him diagnosed, but that's a narrative, isn't it? What I would say is he don't seem too fucking well to me. So the Steve Lott and Bill Caton said, "Oh, he's never been a manic depressive. He's not," and that's nonsense. They wanted that for their agenda. I think he probably, certainly, if you look at him today and the way he does interviews, when he says, "My mind is not my friend, and I need to control it to have any kind of life at all," that sounds like a manic depressive to me.
Yeah. Yeah,
who cares what Bill Caton thought? When was he a psychotherapist or a neurologist?
So I remember at that point right there, I just thought to myself, I don't know if you had this comic in Britain. It's Beetle Bailey, is this U.S. Army guy, and he's this skinny little guy, and there's a guy Sarge. And every time Sarge used to, whenever he saw him and gave him an order he didn't do it, he used to beat him up. And he used to be like just this mangled mess, like just eyes are over here and his ass is over there, legs are bent, arms are broken. And every week, every comic, that would happen. And that's when I saw him, and I said, "Hey, Mike," and he said nothing to me. And I almost like was going to go force it. And then something told me better not do that. And that was the image that came to my mind, that he would like Beetle Bailey me, like just absolutely mangle me out of nowhere, like he just flipping. And so I left it alone and kept going my own way. And then, of course, a couple of weeks later, I see him again, and everything is normal and cool. So I always really obviously admired his talent and his ability, but as a person, he was really cool. Like if you sat down and talked with him, he's just one of the coolest individuals without an ego at all. If you don't pose a threat to Mike is one of the coolest guys.
I think that was the thing about him, which was shocking and striking when he was coming up when I was a teenager. He was so self-effacing in the first incarnation as Mike Tyson. And do you remember when he knocked out Trevor Berbick on that November 22nd, 1986? He said, "Verbeek was so strong, very strong, and I was very intimidated by him," and all this kind of thing. It was a bit like the shtick that not shtick, but it was a bit like the kind of vibe George Foreman gave off in his second career, when he was just so kind of generous to everybody else and not egotistical at all.
Gracious,
there was none of that. I am Jack Dempsey. I'm Sonny Liston. I am, my defense is impregnable, and all that kind of weird kind of stream of consciousness rant. He was so charming. It was on BBC with Des Lynam, and he was talking about. He would just, and whenever he talked to Harry Carpenter as well in those early years, butter wouldn't melt in his mouth. He was this actually perfect commercial product, because he was he looked like the boy you could take home to mother. But if you were a girl, of course, unless you're gay. But
you know what's interesting about Mike? I'd say what's interesting about Mike, and people miss this so much, but I think he's massively insecure. Yeah, maybe his childhood massively. Why is that?
Know who it was.
Growing up as he did, I wouldn't be surprised.
because he's so reactory, like he's so like when he's like Silk said, as long as no one threatens him. Let me ask you, if you get these incredible fighters, like let's say you got someone like John Jones, the
UFC,
and you threaten, he just laugh at you, absolute security. Even all of the greats just laugh at you. Mike, he's on you. It's like this crazy fear of something. And and he fought that way,
he was fueled by it 100%. You're right.
You imagine you get a cat in a corner. They're so ferocious. That's how they take you out. Extremely dangerous. And so I think plaudits to Mike to overcome such massive insecurity and become such a dominant force in the game. But I don't think that insecurity ever left him. And
I don't think it did either. No,
I think when
he was able to use it as a fuel, which is
use it as a fuel, but it was also a downfall,
undoing an Achilles heel,
undoing that he never conquered in life, and that maybe he still never. And I think life dealt him a few cards that he probably didn't.
Teddy Atlas has spoken about him frequently over the years, and says that he thinks he always talks about how he never overcame adversity because he was lacking in that sense with his character. He tells a story in the amateurs where he said Mike Tyson had hit this guy from pillar to post, and he was winning so easily. He said, but the guy just wasn't going anywhere, and unusually most of his opponents he stopped in 1 or 2 rounds. And this guy just wasn't budging. And he said he almost saw something in Tyson, like he saw he was on the verge of wanting to quit. And he said, don't you dare. And there was no crisis. The only crisis was the guy wasn't falling. That's obviously heavily, flavoured with Atlas's slant on the situation. We don't have the footage. I don't believe we do. But he talks about him having that kind of character weakness from day one, doesn't he? And when he put the gun to Tyson's head, it's a story that neither one of them disputes, and they both tell a very similar version of events. When he was fired from the D'Amato midst from that camp as a result of that, because he fell out with Mike rather irrevocably, it would seem, he said that what they did was they smoothed over the cracks because of the way he was behaving and disrespecting people in their environment at the time, because they wanted that youngest world heavyweight champion, and they sacrificed his personal development for that goal. That was the Teddy Atlas take on it.
What makes me sad about Teddy Atlas is, I think.
We have. I forgot about you and Atlas. Sorry, go on.
No, it's because as much as you have to give him his plaudits for his years in the game, and he has some knowledge, I don't think he's as knowledgeable as people think. But the very man that he puts down all the time is the man who made him who he is. Without Mike Tyson, Teddy Atlas would have never got his fucking name anywhere. The story of the gun, I don't think that's a particular brave thing to put a gun in someone's mouth.
Yeah, we spoke about that one night, didn't we? When you were quite
if you want to fight Mike with your bare hands, now you're a legend. But put a gun in his mouth, no big deal.
But hang on, Gary. To caveat that, to play the devil's advocate, as it were, if you've got a guy who's that much bigger than you are, and all the rest of it, and he has sexually disrespected one of your relatives or a friend of a relative, whatever, he's actually put it on an underage girl and been sexually inappropriate with her and intimidating, and you want to react to it, you say you're a man. Some guys would just swallow that. I do think it's a kind of a man who says, all right, I'm going to get a fucking gun and tell him not ever again. There are times when that might be necessary, right? Because we tend to, as boxers, we take anybody. But
I can't get into this. I can't get into the story of the incident. I don't know anything about it. Mike didn't go to jail for it. So is it true? Is it false? I don't know.
No, listen. Why would you go to jail when we're talking about he's like 40? He was probably.
Hang on. Ben, let me speak, please. I don't know the story. You don't know the story. We only know. So
both of them tell it, and it's very.
But can I finish? Similar. May I finish? May I?
Go.
Yes.
I don't know the story. You don't know the story. Okay, but
I know more about it, though, right?
No, you know what you've heard. You wasn't there, right?
From
you
both of them, though. Go on.
You know what? I won't discuss it because I can't get a word in edgeways. So let's not discuss it.
but it's not fair to say.
I won't be asked an opinion and then be cut off every second by it. So let's not.
Go on then. So apologies, Gary. Go on.
Oh, sorry, no.
But anyway, having said that, we're talking about. I mean, this is Mike's birthday, right? And he's obviously gone through a lot of trials. He's He's seen the worst of humanity. He's seen the worst of himself. You know, this is a guy that's walked the earth and has experiences that on average people just do not have. You see the worst of yourself. You see the worst of other people. You've seen greed and lasciviousness at levels that are just like bionic. You know what I mean? And so for him to be alive today and fully functional up here and be able to like use all that wisdom, that's how he's almost like, you know, like a book. He's a very like he has a book of knowledge now himself, and this is how people react. Like he can look at his own circumstances and say, these are how people reacted to me. This is how humanity reacts to me when I was like this. This is when it was like that, and all the stages in between. And that's what's beautiful about humanity, or that's what's so ugly about humanity. He can tell, because most of us don't get that experience. You know what I mean? And you only get that experience when you go for things that are unusual. That's, you know what I mean? When you reach for things that are unusual, which going for a world title absolutely is. But then going for a world title when everybody sees you as this, you know, wonder kid, and they don't see all the emotions that and the realities that went into you that make you not what you thought he would be or who you think he is. He's not who you think he is. Mike absolutely isn't what you think he is. But at the same time, he's like there are parts of him. There are just so many working parts that are kind of like at the same time. It's crazy.
Yeah, and you know, most fighters, almost no fighter had that level of fame and pressure on them. I mean, you could talk about a handful of fighters in history, no doubt, who had that kind of level of pressure and fame on them, like a Joe Louis or maybe a Jack Dempsey in his era, Muhammad Ali, obviously. But there isn't too many, is there?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, but even then, it was a different type of pressure, and it's a different type of mentality that requires to handle it. The fact that Mike is even still here, probably, I'm sure there's stories about Mike that are in the mainstream that we haven't heard. Like I'm sure there are stories about Mike that Mike keeps to himself that he would probably never, you know what I mean? That he would never want exposed to the light of day, and he just considers himself fortunate to be here. And hey, listen, you know what I mean? You only go around once, kind of thing. And he's in, you know, he's lived a life. You know, he's I would say instinctually, his instincts have led him on this labyrinth of experiences that many of us wouldn't be able to, you know. I guess
it's like in The Hangover when they're talking about looking at the slides and the things that they did in Blackout, and when he wants to have a look, and he's like, "Come on, I'm Mike Tyson. I've seen everything," you know. So, and there is this sense that he's kind of, he's almost crammed about 5 lives into the space of one.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm telling you, to meet him, to shake his hand, it has nothing to do with his fighting or anything like that. If you were to shake his hand, look at him in the eye, shake his hand, and start talking to him, you would like him. Like he just has that.
Well, you ever met him, Gary?
No.
You haven't met him? That surprises me. I thought your paths might have crossed at some point.
Yeah.
One of his best friends, but I don't never met him.
Say again?
One of my best friends is Mike's best friend, but I've never. In fact, 2 of my best friends, very close friends, are very close to Mike. It's ironic. I've never spent time with Mike. I don't know.
Yeah, I met him just the once for I don't know. It was less than 10 minutes and more than 5. I don't know that much, but it was kind of surreal to be honest with you.
I know. Yeah.
He didn't say a whole lot.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah. Well, you know, you think about it when you shake people's hands and you get a sense. Like I remember shaking Tommy Hearn's hand, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is crazy," because his hand was just like it was like a mace, like a knight's mace. Like when he closed his fist, he shook his hand, and his hand would wrap all the way around you. Mike's was kind of different. It's almost like his power. It tells you where their power comes from. So it wasn't necessarily his hand that engulfed you, but it was the fact that he was able to get everything else behind it. You know what I mean?
I was friendly with Lennox, still, of course, if I see him, but I've never shook a hand like Lennox Lewis's hand in my life. It is like trying to shake hands with a watermelon.
What? It's just because it's just so large.
Put your hand like that, and it just doesn't go around anywhere.
Yeah.
You put your hand like that and shake. When you go Lennox, you just put it flat, and it doesn't go anywhere. His hands are this big.
Bro, I don't even have small hands either. I have like big hands. Like look at all over my face, and Hearn's hand wrapped around mine. I was like, no wonder he was a puncher. Yeah,
that was before the fight, was it? That you found that out? That was before the fight, and you were like, wow, yeah.
I was like, I definitely made a mental note of that because I grew up watching him, and I always wondered what made him. I always thought it was his back, and obviously a lot of power comes from your back, but that weight is like there was weight here. It was skinny all the way here, and then it was big again in his back. And it's almost like a catapult slinging a cannonball. You know what I mean?
I shook Eubank's hand on, I think, Jonathan Ross. We did Jonathan Ross show.
Yeah.
I shook his hand. And I shook his hand like a couple of days before. I thought, fuck me, he's bigger than me. His hand was like 3 times my hand.
I remember that build-up, Gary. I remember one interview. I wish I could find it, but all I really remember, it was after like a midweek sports special kind of thing, and they said, "Oh, we've got Gary Stretch in the studio, who'll be facing Chris Eubank in a few weeks' time." And I think it might have been Gary Newborn, even maybe it was interviewing you, and he said, "But he is a big puncher, isn't he, Gary?" And you said he'll have to be. But really, with real kind of contempt and real sort of stylish contempt, you just went, "He's going to have to be," But I wish I could find it.
I never had a doubt in my mind I could beat him if I was in shape. Honestly, I keep saying that I shouldn't because I lost fair and square, but I just wished it's a dream. I have nightmares that I would have been able to be a bit stronger and a bit healthier for that.
What was the perfect scenario for you, Gary? What was like if you could go back and do that over again?
Give me 12 to 14 weeks to get ready for it.
Instead of 4?
Instead of 4. 3.5, 4.
Madness.
Because it was mentioned and I started to train and then it said, nah, it's not good. And then they kept, looking back, I don't know if they knew my personality, but it was it on, was it off? And I said to tell me when it's on and I'll train. And they told me, and it was way too short a time. But so
that's way too short a time to train for a world title. That's for sure.
I would have loved to have a good month eating and running and getting strong and doing general, and then another month.
Even a month is too short. Yeah, you need.
I would have liked 3. I would have liked 3 months for that fight because it's a different kind of fight. Because I'd like a month to do a certain physical strength training and a second month to do.
Well, you need to stew on it too. You need to stew on it. You need to like really understand what you're going into and what you're doing, and everything needs to marinate. Like all your abilities need to marinate in order to like come out right. You know what I mean? You need to set yourself on a good pattern, and then you need to repeat that pattern consistently until you become at one with your physical, mental self, become one. And then when you fight, you give everything you've got, and where that, and that's what allows you to like accept the outcome of a fight, and you're not fighting these demons that always come at you, and you're always like, oh, I wish I would have, and that's a hard thing to always have to come back to. So I understand where you're coming from.
And the worst thing was because I didn't have like the right enough time, I had trouble making the weight. I got to a point where I was way over. I thought like I was like, and then. But I shouldn't be because I'm tiny. But I thought I was having trouble making weight, so I started starving myself for like a week before, and I felt like I was getting weaker and weaker, and then suddenly I got on the scales and I was way under. But it went from way over to way under in like within 8 days. I went from one scale, and then I started trying to eat again, but I thought I've lost too much, and then so everything was like wasn't. It's like getting invited to a party without being a fashion
Get
party,
changed.
and throwing a few things in a bag, and then when you open the bag, nothing fits. Nothing works, and so you put on whatever clothes you can. You do the best you can, but you like, and like both of you, when you're psychologically not 100% because of your own, and I blame myself. I kept saying you should have just kept training before.
So why did you have to fight?
And so I was not mentally 100%, but it is what it is.
Yeah. This, it all seems so simple, like to prepare for a fight. And it's something that we've all done for years, since the beginning of our fight lives. That's what we've always done. You prepared to have that one fight, but the older you get, or the more experience, or the closer to the goal you get, the more complex it gets. And there's certain things in life that you just aren't going to know in terms of preparing for a fight.
Yeah.
And especially when you're preparing for somebody who's of that level. Like there are fighters you can fight that are champions, and they're almost like interim champions, because they're not really like that gold label champion. You know what I mean? They don't have that specific kind of ability. You know what I mean? But when you're training to fight somebody that's special, and you know what I mean, they're already a proven champion, all the rest of that kind of stuff. Eubanks, Ben, all those kind of guys. They're special. They're not like your run of the mill champions. Like I don't know. I wouldn't say run of the mill in that, like to take anything away from anybody, because when you win the world title, yes, it's good, but that's great. But there are some fighters that just they seem like they're holding it for someone else to come along, and you know what I mean. They're not of the same ilk. They're not of the same talent.
Yeah, of course. So particularly in recent eras, they proliferate. Of course.
You know what's sad? What was the worst for me was, let's say 2 weeks out, I was smashing sparring partners. Like the week before, the same guys were giving me a hard time. And so that I couldn't deny that fact. And I thought that's when I knew the training had gone wrong somehow. 2 weeks before, I'm demolishing guys. A week before, the same guys are giving me.
Do you remember who you sparred with for the camp?
Fucking wrong here, which I knew we were like my. I'm sorry.
Do you remember who you sparred with at that camp?
I had a bunch of guys, all different. Because I trained. I went out to Vegas, so I worked with some good fighters out there. I remember I did a little bit of work with Mike McCallum, Manning Galloway. I worked with, but I had a very varied. I had Israel Cole.
I remember him.
He was the best in gym fights in the world. I watched him beat everyone up in the gym, and when he fought in under the big lights, he was never the same. But he was famous for beating everybody up in the gym.
He boxed on one of them undercards. It was either Hagler Hearns or Hagler Leonard. It was one of them big undercards with Hagler.
Israel, was he a middleweight? Was he a Latin kid?
Black American from like one of the real tough, like Harlem or one of them places. But I saw him in the gym with like Michael Watts and Mike McCallum, and he was incredible. He was. I'm not saying he beat him up, but absolutely held his own. And then his record was terrible, but he was such But so I mixed it up, but I just remember doing so much better a couple of weeks out to the week before, where I felt like I was, when you work so hard in a short amount of time, I think at a certain point you just get tired. Your body, you can overdo it. I should have, that was a classic overtrained and undertrained. Meaning overtraining in a short. I didn't overtrain. I didn't train enough, but I overtrained in the short period of time.
You had, yeah.
And so, but again, I don't want to sound like I got beat fair and square, no issue. My fight with myself, no one else was. I got the training wrong,
Yeah.
Do you ever wish
people don't see that? People don't see that other side of it, and people think Well, obviously, if you're in the ring, you did everything right in order to get into the ring. Nothing went wrong in your training. Everything is perfect. You don't have any injuries, and you don't have any psychological issues. Your family, home life, everything was treating you well, all the rest of that. When you fight, you have to fight with all those,
compartments. I was going to say, Gary,
the complex thing about boxing is,
I was going to ask you if you ever wished you'd have just said, okay, I lost to Chris Eubank. First genuine loss of my career was a world title fight. Back to the drawing board. I'll get in the gym next week. And that's just the first setback. And I'll just keep going with this career. This isn't over yet. And I will, I know you have one fight after that. But do you ever wish you'd just been like, still fighting, still got a good 5 years or whatever in me. And this is just a little bit of a setback.
I wish I had that mentality. You know what's funny? Maybe I wasn't cut out to be great. Maybe I lacked that side. You have to say I didn't do it right. Why? I don't know why. I remember being disheartened with the game, not with the fight. It was like
business,
the business side of it, like as much. And I feel ashamed these days because I had so much more opportunity than so many. There's so many great fighters I came across in my life in the gyms. I don't want to sound like race is an issue, but if they were not good-looking white boys, if they were good-looking white boys, they'd have been billionaires. But these were just regular, tough, good fighters from neighborhoods in Brooklyn and the Bronx, and they were amazing. Didn't have even good promoters because it's a commodity that they're selling, and if they don't feel like they've got the best commodity, it's amazing. That's why the Mugabes of the world and all of these guys who come through, they must have incredible brains, incredible drive, because they only got noticed eventually, right? Unless they had big amateur Olympics. So many didn't, but they got through. Like, look at Hagner's career for years unnoticed, and I think that I must have lacked that. I must have lacked something because I got disheartened too easy, and I shouldn't have done. I think I asked myself now. I wish now I had the opportunity to say, let's go, let's do it, let's
or have somebody that said recalibrate and let's take a different approach to it.
I should have asked myself some questions, and I should have dug deep, and I should have gone again, and I should have then proved myself to myself and not to anybody else. I should have just kept my mouth shut and gone to work, but for some reason I wasn't prepared to do that, and that I think is something that's made me sad my whole life. Because
losing doesn't feel good, right?
So like something, sorry.
Yeah, so when you lose, you have to, you look inward, you look at yourself. There's something about it, and if there's an easier way, it's very much the human nature to be like, okay, well, there's a different way to get this thing done, and so. It may not be, I may not attain what I want to attain this way, but I can get it another way.
Yeah, it's.
David Evans has asked you a question. He says, Gary, did you feel that some people thought you were a Playboy model more than a championship level boxer?
Oh, he definitely was a Playboy. Yeah, I could see that.
No, but the reality was I wasn't really. The reality of it was no. The reality of it is you look the way you look. For me it was like you.
Listen, you had opportunities. Things happened and came into your life where you had the opportunities that normal individuals didn't have, right?
I was fortunate enough to get offered situations like contracts with an agent or a job or something. I never ever considered myself as a model. I still don't ever in my life. I think the only reason I got the job because I was a famous.
Of course, and distractions came your way easier than other fighters would get. Yes.
But all of that, admit it, but I don't think that if you get an opportunity to do like I think in the day, what the difference was I was one of the first to be able to
marketed that way.
Put brands on boxing, because they were in them days they were afraid to get a brand connect to a fighter who could get killed or or so now it's everywhere. There's a market. In my day I was one of the first, and I think people used to think they would say he's like he's not tough, he's not this, but then ask the guys who fought me, could I fight or not? Ask you, Banksy, who's fought the best. Was I a problem for him for a certain amount of time? Absolutely. He admitted to me, he said he was one of the most difficult people I've ever fought. So sure, I had some ability, but the marketing and whatever, and it was certainly not me marketing. But if you do these campaigns or you do something and then give someone an inch to take a mile, I'd read things, male model. I wasn't a male model. Someone offered me a job because I was a boxer, and I did it, and I got paid, and that was easier than fighting. Why wouldn't I? But no, I always had a very disciplined approach to boxing. I think if you look at some, even we're not even world title fights, but if you look at the Gary Cooper fight or the many fights were 10, 12 rounders, you never saw me run out of gas. I obviously had to train to a level to stay at that 12 rounds at that pace. And so I thought it was, people laugh, but it's also, it's an insult to me, because I took the game really serious. I trained really hard, and I always work with, like, when I say, like, I was in Vegas sparring with McCallum or all these guys, I would try and learn from everyone. I didn't try and be the best. I'd fight much better people than me. Some people would say, why would you go into Mike McCallum or these guys when you need confidence? No, my confidence came out of being able to somewhat learn. And if I could learn one thing with Mike, I would rather do that, even if my day's uncomfortable. Every day when I go, it's an uncomfortable day. I would rather do that than learn nothing fighting guys I can handle.
What's nice is to spar with better guys like that who really push you and stretch you, and then get back in another situation where you're sparring with guys you can handle much easier, and you realize how much you've improved when you spar with them.
I never. It's generally, I think boxing is always about, do your reflexes match up with another guy's reflexes? I find, like, a lot of people say, guys that have a fight and they'll say, I learned a lot after they finished, got in the ring and they got hit and hurt and all the rest of that kind of stuff, and say, yeah, but I learned a lot. If they came back and fought that same individual, chances are that's going to happen again.
You say that, but there are obviously examples where it didn't. Plenty of examples in boxing history.
Okay, give me a few. I know there are, but go ahead.
Ali Frazier, there's one to turn it around, okay? Leonard Duran. Robinson Basilio. Lewis Schmeling. I could go, you know me, I could go all day. I really could.
I want to hear you go all day. I love
Lewis Rachman. Will be. Sorry, I'm not allowed to say it twice.
So Lennox Lewis and Rockman is what you're saying. So you don't see them as, well, okay. So you don't see them as even their winning is an abnormality, and then the fact that they came back and won, that's the way it should have been in the first place, right?
Sure, but Ali versus Norton. I
think what we have to consider too is, like, you could have better reflexes than someone, but then I would find, like, I was very, very fast. I have great reflexes, but then when you get in with someone like Mike McCallum, who may not be as sharp, but he had probably better timing than me, so my reflexes couldn't deal with his timing. It's like, so, and like Silk says, in that situation, probably if I fought Mike McCallum 5 times, it'd probably be 5 times the same result. I don't believe. I believe that, like, on the Lewis Rachman, you can get clumsy, you can get lethargic, you can get caught. And then it's like, I tell you what may be interesting if this is the case. I know Silk will disagree, although I'm agreeing with him on this point. The one thing what may, if what I'm saying has some truth, if Tyson Fury comes back now,
yes,
completely different mindset. It's like ultra taking it, like, because he has to, and beats Usyk. Then that would say to me, and it would say to the world, or it would certainly give me an answer that fuck yes, every fight is frame of mind. You got to get it right for 1 hour of one night. Doesn't matter how good you are. Doesn't matter what your resume is. Doesn't matter who you beat. It's Saturday 9 o'clock. You've got 45 minutes to get it right. And if you can get your head in that space and get it right, then
one round at a time.
That is the key, because that's when you've got guys with the same ability. Some have more ability than others, but they get it right on the night. And
I think it is a very interesting rematch.
Can you get that focus right for that night?
It's an interesting rematch.
It's going to happen, right?
It'll depend on who's head.
December 21st.
Yeah,
sorry?
I think.
Go on.
December 21st.
Yes.
So and the early gates say Usyk. I'm probably by stoppage this time.
That's what you're saying, yeah. I can't make a call yet. I'm waiting. I need to get.
I'm going to say it. I'm going to say Fury by stoppage.
That is a nice note to finish on, gentlemen. But before we do, I want to congratulate Gary, because nobody else has mentioned it, on that Clockwork Orange backdrop. I like that. Nobody else mentioned it so far.
Let's see. What is that? I was looking at that. I was like, I could borrow it.
Yeah, you know what? He's trying to make up for your kind of like ocularly challenged situation.
You know what the problem with Ben is? He's so fucking knowledgeable, isn't he, about every subject?
Yeah, it is a bit annoying.
Well, is that like a Betty Boop thing?
He's extremely fucking well read.
He's observant. I'll give him that. He's very observant.
Yeah. Give him that one thing amongst all his multiple shortcomings. No, but that is we won't drag this out. But that was an amazing film and an amazing book. It's a cool film.
Malcolm.
It's called Malcolm.
Malcolm McDowell is a good pal of mine. Yeah.
Is he really? Because that's such an amazing role he plays. He's an amazing actor anyway. But that role is unbelievable.
Malky is brilliant. Yeah, he lives in LA. Lives outside. He's a big golfer. And I went and took him for lunch a few months before I left, which is 18 months ago. But yeah, I love Malky. The movie I did in Bulgaria. I wanted him to do the Mickey Rourke role.
Okay.
But anyway, he was doing a different project. But yeah, good man, and you got a good eye, Ben.
Yeah, well, so's the guy in the
middle. Look at that. We've got three eyes there. We've got my eye, Clockwork, Silk's eye, and Ben has got a good eye.
You guys, yeah.
Silk can stretch the three eyes.
So on that note, let's close it. We'll have a quick chat backstage, I hope. But
we'll
guys,
have a quick chat backstage, and we will. First thing we're going to do. So everyone, listen. We're going to settle this. We're going to close out the way we've been going in terms of calling the fights, and we're going to pronounce me the winner, the reigning champion of this one, since I've won. Yeah. And then we're going to open up the new one. Correct?
Can't we go a little closer? Can't we go a little bit longer so I can catch up with Gary? I've nearly got him.
Never going to get me.
I mean, you're in the distance like this unreal spectacle.
Yeah, I'm cool with going. Yeah, I'm cool with that. Let's do.
I'm on Gary's heels, and now you're going to call me the bronze medal winner when I'm coming into my own. These are the championship rounds.
I tell you what I'll do. I'm willing to go forward as we are now, and within
I don't really mind.
I'll be winning again. It's up to you guys.
I just want people to acknowledge that I nearly caught up with Gary. So any sense that I was the run to the litter, quite a preposterous perception. As long as we could agree that right now.
Close only counts with what? Darts and hand grenades? What was that?
What's this? Gary was a shy lad.
Go on, you read it if you can. Go on.
Who connected boxing after his parents' divorce. He was then able to take his anger out on the ring and body.
Hot body after training, hence model. I'll read that for you.
Hey, there you go. Terry knows. She does it pretty well. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was quite shy, believe it or not. So, but I think, you know, if you look at all, it's a funny thing. I know we're going to close, Ben, but I know so many people that you think a certain ways, and there's the opposite, you know. And I think that my whole career I was judged a certain way, and I was the opposite. I was quite introverted, quite shy. And you say you was a ladies' man. You know what the irony is? I think ladies like shy, humble people.
Yes.
And so, you know, George Best, who was a mate of mine, he was the ultimate ladies' man, but he was shy, quiet. You know, he would literally. He was a handful. We all know that, but he was the devil. He had the glint in his eye, and he'd sit very quiet. Everyone would be talking all night, and George would sit quiet, and he'd leave with the girl. But that's, you know, it's. I think people often get image so wrong.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're absolutely pure. Yeah. Absolutely, they get the image wrong. Absolutely.
And I came to terms with it a long time ago, so I just never corrected it. You know, they think you're flash.
Yeah. Let it do what it does.
And so fuel. So I was going to say, Gary, quickly. I know we're trying to close this thing out, but fuel is an interesting thing, and being able to channel your frustration and use it in a positive way is an interesting thing, because what happened? Like, yeah, your parents' divorce, it bothered you. It affected you in a way, yeah, and you're able to take that, and I'm asking, and you're able to take that and take that frustration or that anger, whatever it was, that emotion, and channel it into your boxing. That is a superpower. That's something that, you know, many of us wish we could do.
My mother left, and I was young, and I didn't know why, and I can't remember what I thought then, but looking back, you think she left 3 boys, 3 kids, like it must have been our fault, right?
Yeah.
Because why would she leave us? So if you start to rationalize, so I'm a young kid, I'm angry because my mother left. I'm also extremely insecure. I spent my life trying to prove myself to myself, to the world, that I'm worth something. I'm better. And so it gave me a great drive to prove even to myself, you're not worthless, you're worth something, or you got to. So, and every time I achieved something, I felt I proved something, you know, but in the end of it all, it's a funny story. At the end of it all, no matter how many men I stood above and felt like I'd done something, as I got older, I thought, maybe if I pick a few people up, I'll feel better about myself than putting a few people down. And so it's a complex thing, but I think I tell people all the time, fear, insecurity, self-doubt, all of them things, if you use them correctly, can be great fuel and great attributes to make you better. And I think most of the greats in the world have had something to prove, and have come from a place where they felt they had to prove something, and many may tell the stories and many may not, but
and the way in which you do that is to keep it to the forefront, right? Like, don't sweep it under the rug, deal with it, put it at the forefront, and let it help, like, levitate you or take you to that new level, that next level.
I was never if anyone would have asked me a question, I'd have told them. If they said, are you afraid to fight such a, but I said, sure. Am I going to fight him? Sure. Are you going to beat him? Sure. But am I afraid? Are you any good? I don't think so, but I'll beat him. Why? Because I have to. Why? Because I have to. My mother left me, or whatever this, but I got to beat him. And that was more important to me than how good I was, or this or that. Or, like, I have to win this, because every time I was fighting for my life, fight for my survival. So this is something I didn't know then, but I know now as an adult, where my mind must have been at this constant trying to prove.
For sure. And that's interesting as well, Gary, because that's 4 close male friends I have now whose mother abandoned them. You being one of them. I've noticed that syndrome in my other friends I've known over the years. And there is this. It takes something from you. It takes something from you. There's this desire to prove, and there's some self-esteem where it should naturally be that has been denied, and needs replacing or needs building on its own.
That would be a great name for a rock band.
What?
Abandoned,
yeah, I guess so. Listen, guys, you've got to admit this is the most out there show ever. We're talking about abandonment issues, names for rock bands, ring walks, 69 versus whatever else. It is unique. I'm not even bigging myself up. These guys are brilliant. I'm not. Okay, so keep tuning into us, keep supporting us. We may be taking a 2-week break because we're going to make some changes to make the show even better. Not sure yet, but we'll let you know. In the meantime, just keep doing what you're doing.
And you can also get a Pughouse t-shirt. How about that?
Yeah, exactly. Follow us on pughouse.com. All right, over and out. Cheers.